In the cobbled heart of medieval Bruges, where the canals reflect centuries of history and church bells sing through the morning mist, there stood a little bakery on the corner of a quiet square. The sign above the door was faded, but everyone knew the name: Marie's Oven. Marie wasn't just a baker, she was a quiet miracle. People said her bread could heal sadness, ease worries, and warm the soul. It wasn't magic, not in the usual sense. It was the kind of magic that comes from flour, hands, and a heart that had learned how to rise again. Years ago, Marie had inherited the bakery from her grandmother, who had whispered to her as a child, "Bread is more than food, ma chérie. It's memory. It's hope in a crust." For years, Marie woke before dawn, her windows glowing gold as she kneaded dough with love and laughter. Locals would line up before sunrise: school children, elderly couples, tourists who'd heard rumors of the bakery with the soul of a cathedral. Then, one night, the storm came. The winds howled like grief, rain lashed against the stone buildings of Bruges, and lightning split the sky. In the early hours, a fallen tree crushed Marie's roof. Water flooded the kitchen, ovens cracked, flour turned to paste, the bakery was lost. The morning after, Marie stood in the rubble, soaked and silent, holding her grandmother's old rolling pin. Her heart was heavy, not just with the loss of her livelihood, but with the fear that she could never rebuild the warmth that lived in her walls. But Bruges remembered. That afternoon, a little girl from down the lane came by and handed Marie a bag of flour. "It's from Mama. She says we miss your smell," she said. Then a carpenter offered to fix the roof for free. Then came mixing bowls from a friend, a second-hand oven from a retired baker, herbs from the lady at the flower stall, and finally, someone left a small envelope of money tucked beneath her broken window with a note. "For your first loaf, the city needs your warmth." Marie cried, but only for a moment. And then she started baking again, not in a perfect kitchen, not with fancy tools, but with borrowed things, bruised hands, and a heart stitched back together by kindness. The first loaf she pulled from her new oven was imperfect in shape, slightly uneven, but its scent filled the square like an old song remembered. That day the line stretched around the block. She called it the storm loaf, made with honey and cracked walnuts, sweet and broken, just like the months she'd lived through. Every customer who tasted it said it reminded them of something they couldn't quite name, something warm, something real. Marie smiled and told them, "It's hope, still warm." Soon, her bakery became more than a place to buy bread. It became a gathering place. Locals brought stories instead of coins. A widow shared her grief over fresh rye. A boy gave a drawing of her bakery after tasting her apple tart. Tourists from across the world wrote notes and left them in a wooden box by the counter. "This bread reminded me of my grandmother's hugs. I came here heartbroken. I leave with crumbs and comfort." Marie began writing little phrases on each paper bag, messages like, "You're stronger than you think," or "Some days, sweetness returns." Each loaf carried a message, each pastry a piece of her spirit, and people came not just for the taste, but for the feeling, the quiet reassurance that even after devastation, life can rise again. That with enough love and flour, even broken things can be made whole. To this day, if you walk through Bruges in the early morning, you'll smell something warm on the wind. Follow it, and you'll find Marie, flour on her cheek, smiling softly behind the counter. And if you ask her how she survived the storm, she'll simply pass you a loaf and say, "With kindness and a bit of sugar,